I think the one that is most intriguing to me is the duct tape prom dress scholarship. That's a real one. Someone wins every year, and these young people are, I mean, they knock it out the they knock the ball out the
so
park.
they make prom dresses out of duct tape and then they enter a contest?
You win a scholarship if you win the contest. So it's worth a look.
What is up, y'all? We are here for some gems today to talk about college and sending your kids to that very, very expensive degree. And so we have our friend here, Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hey, Bernadette. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming here. We met at FinCon, and when I met Melissa, I was like, oh my gosh, can you please come and talk to these parents about scholarships and colleges? And so can you tell people what you do?
Yes. So I am a scholarship and college coach. I help parents understand their kids' unique scholarship strategy to save them thousands of dollars on their kids' college education.
I mean, sold. Thousands of dollars. And so let's get into how this applies to the CRUSH framework. The C in CRUSH stands for Curate accounts. And really that's asking us to get organized. So what do parents need to think about organizing within their finances as they're thinking about the scholarship and college admissions process?
So I would suggest for any parent, as for any big purchase, you want to begin to put some money aside for your kids' college education. How you choose to do that is really up to you. I'm not a tax expert, so I'm not going to give any particular investment vehicle for saving that money. But I also want parents to think about how their children can begin to cultivate or curate accounts for their own college education, which is why I'm so heavy on scholarships. So I think in addition to parents saving and educating themselves, parents should kind of turn a lens on their children and start to think, how do we get you to bring in the money that's needed for your college education? And there's a variety of ways to do that.
Oh my gosh, I love that. You said, let's turn it on the kid here and say, you want to go to college? You know, you're responsible for this future. So that actually leads us perfectly into the R in CRUSH, which is reverse into independence. And so I can say this personally as a first generation Filipino American, like there was not an option for me to not go to college in my household. And so have you come across parents who are projecting onto their kids like what independence looks like for them in college, and like what would you say to parents who want to navigate between wanting their kids to do well but also letting them make their own choices and being independent and making their college choices?
Yeah, I empathize, right? Like I'm also a mom, and I don't know how optional college is for my daughter. This is why I understand why so many parents promote college. Because it is the quickest way for people to move from one income class to another income class. And so I've spent years working with first gen to college students. And so if we want to take a student from lower class, working class to middle class, one of the best things we can do for them is send them to college. But there's a caveat. We have to send them to college without the debt. And that's what parents today have to weigh and realize. So the reverse into independence, while we've heard go to college, you can move up the financial ladder, we also have to realize and be smart about our money that if you're going to indebt your kid, $60,000, $120,000, that can really be detrimental to their independence and finances in the future.
Yee! We did it! The book is here! If you like my content and you've enjoyed following this debt-free journey and you want your own debt-free journey to get kick-started, check out the book. It's Crush Your Money Goals. It is the 25 habits that I swear by that help me become a debt-free millionaire and invest enough to retire before 40. So if you want to learn more, check it out at crushyourmoneygoals.com, or you can buy it wherever books are sold. And if you like listening to audiobooks, check it out on Audible.
Man, you just led me right into our next question here, which is around understanding your net worth. To your point, a lot of people go and invest into college not fully understanding what the impact might be, the ramifications down the line for their net worth, and also for parents. I talk to a lot of clients of mine who are still paying off their own student loan debt, and now they're coming up on their kids having to now navigate potentially, having their own student loan debt. So do you have any tips or suggestions for parents who are trying to navigate how sending their kids to college fits into their net worth plans?
Absolutely. So it's the old adage, put your own oxygen mask on before you do it for your children. And if you are still paying back student loans, you really want to take that into consideration. So I would not suggest to any parents to jeopardize their homes. We have parents who tap home equity to send kids to college. I would not suggest that they tap their retirement account to send kids to college, because if it takes that many resources from the person who is not going to be the student, you really can't rely on your children being in financial positions 20, 30 years from now to be able to help you retire if you have to use so much of your money to do that. So if you already have funds, keep them for you. Save yourself first. There are so many college options that are affordable and reasonable, but sometimes we have to divorce ourselves from what we think is a good or respectable college education. Sometimes every student might not be ready to go down that 4-year college path right out of high school. And so all of those things should be weighed before parents put themselves in a very vulnerable position to pay for college. It should not be something that's stressing us out every night before we go to sleep. College has to be both a smart educational and economic decision.
Whew. We need that in a little quote box right here, right? It is not just about the educational decision. It has to make economic sense as well. And so let's get into the meat and potatoes of what it is that you do. The S in Crush stands for spend intentionally, and you help people with the scholarship piece of it. And I'm so excited for you to share more about what you do here and some tips here. I will say personally, for myself, I would not have been able to go to college without scholarships. Mm-hmm. My husband also went to school based off of scholarships. And so I really, really am intrigued by the fact that you coach people on this, because I wish I had a coach back then to help me with it. So what is it that you do related to scholarships specifically, and what are some tips you have?
Yeah, part of the challenge, I think, with parents and why so many parents are stressed out and doing things that jeopardize their financial well-being is because there are things that they don't know because they're not in this industry. So when it comes to scholarships, first, I want to know who the student is to figure out their scholarship strategy. So everything from our ethnic, cultural, religious backgrounds can contribute to what types of scholarships might be available to you, down to the type of schools that you have your children apply to. I'll give an example. If a parent looks at the sticker price, right, of a college or university, there are a lot of parents who are anticipating having to pay out of pocket. And what they'll do is they'll discourage their kid from applying for a college that costs, like, let's say $65,000 a year, because they'll say, we can't afford it. Unfortunately, though, most parents don't know that schools like that, so most of the Ivies, many of the near Ivies, they have those higher sticker prices, but they also are committing to financing a student's education so that they're not indebting kids. So the $65,000 price tag school might actually be the one with the most money for your kid, but oftentimes we tell our kids not to apply because it looks like it's too expensive. So scholarship strategy is very important. In addition to the essay, I don't think that parents understand how significant what your child writes about themselves is going to help them actually secure not only college admissions, which is important for scholarship attainment, but also scholarship essays. And with my background being in writing, that is where the majority of the coaching comes into play. So I'm teaching young people how to find power in their personal stories so that they're actually showing up as a very compelling candidate for college admission and scholarship attainment.
Okay, first of all, have you met my parents? Because you pretty much described my parents to the T. They were like, we can't afford that, so you're not applying there or you're not going there. And I love that you are educating people about the fact that a lot of these different qualifications, like you need to know the whole person to be able to know what the scholarship strategy is going to be. So I have a funny question. Have you seen any like scholarships that you're like, what? They give scholarships for that? What's one that people might not have heard of or like can't believe that you get a scholarship for?
Well, there are some that have been circulating and they are real. So there are scholarships for people who are left-handed or a certain height. I've seen a scholarship specifically for students with a certain last name that only come from real obscure counties. And you know those scholarships have money in their funds year after year because you're not going to find someone that meets that criteria. And it's just not been revisited again. I think the one that is most intriguing to me, though, is the duct tape prom dress scholarship. That's a real one. Someone wins every year. And these young people are just, I mean, they knock it out the... they knock the ball out the park.
They make prom dresses out of duct tape and then they enter a contest?
Yes. And you win a scholarship if you win the contest. But it's worth a look.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool. Also, I'm like, there must be that one kid out there who's about to turn 18 that is left-handed and has that last name and is like 5 foot tall or whatever. Like,
right, but then
who knows?
He or she also would need to want to go to this one school because scholarships are housed in different places, right? So you have to be an applicant to this particular school. I'm in Pennsylvania. The scholarship was at Penn State. So things like that exist. But that also adds to that number that we hear, hey, X millions of dollars of scholarships go unused every year. It's not always because people aren't applying. It's because people don't fit the criteria.
That makes so much sense. So much sense. And you mentioned earlier, too, of like what parents think is going to actually help their kids' odds, and they focus often on the admissions. Are there other things that parents can help their kids hone in on or focus on when it comes to applying for scholarships to make them more attractive for these potential opportunities?
Yes. If there's one thing I can suggest to parents, it's have your children do more community service. So often, especially when we're talking about money, we send high school students to work. Now, if you're going to send a high school student to work, I would suggest that you make sure that their place of employment has some type of employee scholarship benefit. Maybe that your job, if you're switching jobs, that would be something that I would look for. A lot of times we have students, especially those of us who came from working class families, we worked in our free time. But outside of need and merit-based scholarships, the next biggest category for scholarships is service. And there are so many of us who don't show up as strong candidates for service-based scholarships because we've been getting paid for our work and not volunteering. If you have a child that's super busy and they do need to work, there are things that I would suggest they should create some type of service-based project. It could be within their school, it could be within their religious community, it could be in your neighborhood. That would also show leadership and initiative, and also give them things to talk about so that they are looking really appealing for service-based scholarships. But that is a category that a lot of parents don't know exists, but it's really like the third largest scholarship category.
Also, you'll also just raise a nicer, kinder human being by having them go do community service, right? So I feel like there's a lot of, things that can be accomplished by having your kid go out into the community and actually serve the community in a positive way. So I love that. And actually, just thinking for myself now, I mean, I have a ton of nieces and nephews, and I am absolutely going to have them do that because one of my life goals is to have like a scholarship fund down the road as well. They gotta put some elbow grease in there.
Absolutely.
For it, so I love that.
Absolutely. And one more thing, just in terms of benefit of community service, a lot of times it helps young people really consider what type of career path they want. Because
True.
so the average student, when they're writing their scholarship essays, they always say, "Oh, I want to do this because I want to help people." And I'm like, "Listen, you can help an old lady cross the street, right? Like that's not convincing enough for someone to give you tens of thousands of dollars. But help how?" And so when we actually have our kids doing things that they're not forced to do, they're not being paid to do, they can actually think about what aspect of this am I enjoying most. And you just get access to different jobs, career paths, all of those things. So I would say that that's another way that we save money on a college education, because the more exposure your child has before they get to college, the less likely they are to have to be on the 6 to 8 year bachelor plan because they keep switching their major.
If you're enjoying this content and want to actually take real action towards crushing your money goals, check out my new book. It is Crush Your Money Goals, 25 habits that you can use starting today to pay off debt, save, invest, and reach financial freedom. It's jam-packed with all of my best tips as a debt-free millionaire and your new money mentor. Check it out at crushyourmoneygoals.com or head to Amazon or wherever you buy books. Grab yours today.
Oh my gosh. So good. So good and so true. I'm just thinking back to myself of, yeah, that would have benefited me a lot, because I thought I was going to be a doctor, when as many Asian kids think that they're going to be. And then I saw the sight of blood one day and I was like, nope, don't want to do that. So true. And that leads us to our last part of Crush, which is healing money wounds. And I imagine as a coach, this is a very intense kind of period for both the parents and the children, especially maybe they don't get into the college they want to, they maybe don't get the scholarships as they hoped. And so how do you help manage that emotional process and the mental health of your clients?
Yeah. I wrote an article about this very thing years ago because it is very challenging for both students and parents when the outcome that you were expecting does not happen. So the first thing is, I love to validate who young people are. You are already great. And so I try not to use even a language of like, I've been accepted. I use admission as the word to describe if you were admitted into a college or not, because it is not a personal thing being accepted to a college or university. But then I also try to help them understand that there is a number of things that's being considered, and it's not a decision about who you are or what your worth is. Sometimes when college admission officers need to put together an incoming class, they're looking for an assortment of people who are going to play off of each other in different ways. And perhaps your unique thing that you're bringing isn't necessarily the right fit for this incoming class, but there is a space for you. I also believe that sometimes when doors don't open, it's really us being redirected to the path and to the space where we're supposed to be. I've experienced students who were just distraught, and it's like, no, I need this degree. And for many young people who are going to school today, they are going to pursue more than one degree. And so I say, listen, work hard, knock it out the park. And so maybe your master's degree can come from that college or university. There's a number of different ways. And for parents too, I just want to say to parents that sometimes the school that you think your child should go to isn't going to be the best fit for them socially. And so I know that we want to wear certain sweatshirts, right? Or have the license plate frame that says this university, but that does not mean that that is the place or the space. And so having your child not be admitted to one of those schools can also be a saving grace in a lot of other ways. But I think we need to detach ourselves from the prestige of certain universities and really think about, where can my child go, thrive, become a part of a community, have an alumni network that's actually going to open doors for them and not just be a part of the numbers. So there's so much more to the college experience than the name on the degree or the name on a sweatshirt.
Oh my gosh. I Where were you 20 years ago for me? I will say, and this is for anyone who's listening, right, is that interestingly for me, I got into all of the colleges that I wanted to go to, but I ended up going to the college that made the most economical sense. And at the time, I was really sad about it. But looking at my life now, 20 years later, I'm fine. We're fine. Everyone's fine, right? And so I love that you've shared that perspective, and because you see so many families go through this, that you can have that objective perspective. So you have a book also. It's called Scholars Get Dollars.
Yes, Scholars Get Dollars.
I love it. I love it. So to me, it makes it like for $30 to be able to turn your child into a scholarship magnet and save thousands on their college education seems like a no-brainer to me. So if people want to learn more about you, the book, and your services, where can they find you?
CaptureGreatness.org. And so that is our website. And we're also on Instagram, Capture Greatness Scholars on IG.
I love it. This was such a great interview. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your expertise. And I'm so grateful that there are people like you doing this work in the world.
Thank you, Bernadette, for having me. And I'm very excited for what's to come for your community.
Oh, thank you so much. If you like this episode, you can check more out in the show notes down here below. And if you want to learn more about how to crush your money goals as the parent of these college-bound kids, check out crushyourmoneygoals.com and check out our book that just came out at crushyourmoneygoals.com. Lastly, if you want to come and join a class or a workshop, we have lots of those available for you also on the website. See y'all next time.